Good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Vong. This is my colleague, Charlie Starkman, and Francisco and Emily Wang's here for us. If they want to chime in, please jump in anytime. If you have any additional information that you feel would be sufficient and supportive in regards to what we're presenting today. So thank you for saying good morning. Good morning, all. So Charlie, you can move on to the next slide, please.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's get started. So just sharing some international student statistics. So as of fall 2018, approximately 1 million international students were enrolled in American universities. So as of right now, 5.5% of the total US higher education population is comprised of international students. And as a result, there's a significant financial impact on the United States economy due to the expenses that are accrued through international students attending university here in the States. The research shows that China and India are the largest sources of international students attending American universities. However, students are coming from across the globe, and I don't know if Emily or Francisco, how many countries are represented by international students here at UM-Dearborn?
It's around 30 for the international holding a student visa, but however, overall, I think it's over 80 internationals, nationalities represent on campus, right?
Okay, so we've got a very diverse makeup of students on campus, and as a result, we wanted to be able to hold a workshop today where we were able to talk about, connecting not just to each other, but also how international students can connect to the larger university community, as well as some of the specific barriers that they might face, as well as how navigating COVID-19 has been really stressful. And we are going to have that be a particularly significant component of the early part of our presentation. So Jimmy, I'll turn it over to you to talk about some mental health issues that we often see with our international students.
Yeah, so the trend of international students' mental health issues, sometimes when you're moving from a whole foreign land, we can recognize that language barrier is a huge issue that probably your office would deal with, Emily. The loss of social family support, feeling potentially social isolated. Now with the whole pandemic happening currently, we're all forced to stay we're all encouraged to stay within our home, and that's something that we're all going through together. Challenge with establishing new support system in country, it's a total wide gap that we're dealing with. The cultural misunderstanding that we're currently experiencing, potential racial and ethnic prejudice and discrimination that they are experiencing themselves, the cultural isolation, homesickness, unfamiliarity with American educational system. What we can recognize is that in different countries, they have different learning styles and different teaching styles. So that's something that they're currently adjusting with. The performance pressure of their family and performance pressure of the school system. It's a burden and fear that they have to carry on with themselves. The financial difficulty now that they are expected to maintain and obligate to fulfill. And however, because of the pandemic is currently a struggle for a lot of students to maintain that financial obligations. And also complication with the career decision making. A lot of students from different countries struggle when they come here. They struggle making the decision: do I choose a career that's financially stable, or do I choose a career that's, best for my best interests? And then the restriction of immigration status. I know that a lot of students who, once they graduate, they're expected to find a job within months. And I'm referring to our seniors currently at the moment. Because they graduate this semester, are they expected to find a job during pandemic? That's a challenge that we're currently dealing with, and I know a lot of students are dealing with. And is there an extension? That's something I don't have an answer for. Can you chime in with that, Emily or Francisco?
There's no extension so far. I haven't heard any updates yet, but so far the regulations all remain the same.
So that is an ongoing concern. I think it's important that they have support in this manner, because you can't find a job when there's no job opening or anything open at this time. So that must be really difficult for them to manage. So I hope that we have more information in regards to that for this for information at this time moving forward. And also identity confusion conflicts on the last slide. You know, moving from different land to land, trying to find yourself. This is something that can be really difficult and challenging for a lot of students. You have anything you want to say, Charlie? Add this slide.
Not, at least not for this slide, but I am curious for our participants, if you'd like, we have our chat function open, and you know, this is by no means an exhaustive list. It's pretty thorough, but we'd love to be able to hear and have you interact with us. Maybe if there's something else that you would add to the list, or even Francisco or Emily, other issues or concerns that students might bring to the Office of International Affairs, and how to navigate those with students. I'd love to be able to hear from you, and also from the students watching our presentation today. Let's see, do we have anyone sharing? No. Take a minute. There we go. Okay, what do we have? Oh,
Got a good morning. Good morning.
Okay. If anyone doesn't have any other, okay, let's see. Maybe we've got valid points and relatable. Very good. Okay, we've got a question. It's a good question. Okay, the Chinese virus on Twitter leads to the discrimination of Asians. Some Asians did get attacked in some cities in the United States. What can we do when we feel unsafe? I think that's a really good question. Jimmy, I'd like to turn it over to you, just because I know that this has been a personal experience for you during this time, and I will chime in if necessary. But Shulan, that's a really good question. Thank you for sharing.
Whoa. Whoops. I guess our video cut into two. So in regards to my own personal experience dealing with racial discrimination, because of the pandemic, I was able to, I became more vocal about it. Has helped me reach out to my peers and my family for support, because, you know, myself being Asian American, I experienced this in the public space. And I started feeling more anxiety when I was in public, and I realized that it was something that I was personally going through. So I became more vocal and started reaching out for more support. Because what made it more challenging for me was that rather than bottling it in, it was more helpful to talk about it. And the more that I talked about it, my surroundings started becoming more aware about it. Because people were very dismissive at first, like, no, it's a Chinese virus. And then they didn't realize that term caused a lot of issues, because it instilled fear, right? And then the next thing you know, when it comes to fear, it leads to hate. So the more I talked about it, you know, my natural surrounding, my peers all started recognizing, or maybe I should start changing my language. And so that people start becoming more aware that they should be more kind towards each other. But it starts with us. We have to start speaking about us in the way that people are aware that this caused a lot of hate. So that was my experience. And I was able to, anyone else want to chime in?
I have a conversation with my friends, because a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about meeting up in a park, because of social distancing and then this fatigue staying at the home. So we talk about going to the park, and then we talked about this discrimination about Asian. So the suggestion, we all agreed that if you go anywhere, just go as a group.
That's true too.
Yeah, even though we are distancing ourselves, but not just by yourself.
And I think Emily's spot on. To be able to increase the sense of safety, I think there is safety in numbers, right? And being surrounded by people that you trust, going going to environments that feel, that feel safe, that feel secure, knowing, your supports and who you can reach out to in situations where you do feel unsafe, and also knowing that you do have the option in the vast majority of situations, I can't say all situations, but that you can leave, taking agency over yourself and the decisions that you do make, even when it is really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and people's perception, you cannot change that, but you can do whatever you could on your own.
Mm-hmm. Definitely protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally get it. For the first couple of weeks, I was very fearful of going in public because of my race. So I totally get where you're coming from. And that's a good question to ask. But like everyone stated, be safe, be more vocal about it, express your concerns so people are more aware about it. So that way we can change our approach moving forward.
Before we move on, I saw a question, and it's for Emily, and I don't know if it necessarily links to what we're talking about here. We have a couple of questions regarding the CPT course, and then we have another one, another attendee asking if we get an unpaid internship during the summer, will the CPT be approved for that? I don't know if this is something we want to answer now, or if it's something that might be more pertinent to separate. Yeah, we've got a lot of.
Definitely. Let's stay with this topic about what we are supposed to do right now in regard to CPT OPT. We all have handouts. Please feel free to call me after this meeting. I'll be very happy to talk with you and answer your questions.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So moving on, there are several barriers that might make it difficult for international students to seek help at either a counseling center or just in counseling in general. In a lot of cultures, discussing mental health is often a taboo topic, and there's still high levels of stigmatization, especially in collectivistic cultures. Seeking out counseling or therapy might be a sign of personal weakness. It might also be disgrace or disappointing to one's family. And it's also challenging deep-seated cultural norms, which can feel really uncomfortable when we're challenging something that we know, that's really all we know. It's also important to recognize that everyone is facing different circumstances. And at the same time, we all face things, we all deal with different things in a different way. So the way that I approach a situation that is challenging might not be the same way that Jimmy approaches it. And we've got nearly 40 people tuning into this. So I'm pretty sure that all of you watching are, most likely approach situations in different ways. And what we see oftentimes with international students is that they are more likely to seek help, especially mental health treatment, if they have a really strong relationship or a functional relationship with an advisor or a mentor who encourages them to seek out help, to reassure them that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and that there are people on campus who are here to support you in all areas of your life. So there's a lot of anecdotal, I guess you could say, stuff that I was able to find about how international students are navigating COVID-19. And again, I think Francisco and Emily can probably talk about this much more eloquently than I can, at least with a lot of the logistical aspects. But really looking at a lot of the financial difficulties, and a lot of institutions, international students are concerned about maintaining scholarships, being able to afford school. And also, Jimmy discussed that earlier, navigating the complexity of immigration and visa status, as well as adjusting to online classes. I know especially at CAPS, that has been something that has been really tough for some of our students, especially international students that we're working with, or if you've never taken an online class before, just the natural adjustment to learning in a different way. And something that has often come up a lot recently, especially, is loneliness. And it's even more prominent if you're living alone, being very far away from your family. A lot of factors contribute to loneliness and feeling very isolated, not even just from the campus community, but from loved ones. I would like either, if you can, Francisco or Emily, to kind of talk about some of the things that you've noticed or challenges, especially pertaining to immigration and visa status. When I was kind of looking at some of the struggles that international students have been facing, that came up a lot in a lot of the articles and things that I found, as well as just the general financial stressors.
Yeah, I think that this is a really, good list of some of the things that the pandemic has really brought along and highlighted as some of the major concerns that international students are currently facing. Without question, I think that the loneliness concern is one of, it's a big one, right? Because I mean, that's one that I think lots of international students, particularly in their first semester or in their first year, really have to struggle. People, something like loneliness. And obviously the restrictions of the pandemic have really made that aspect, I think, of the international student experience so much more, it's really brought it to the forefront in a way that wasn't true before. Together with that, obviously, the immigration system is always difficult and challenging to navigate in the first place. People I know for a fact often bank on this first summer after they started in the fall on being able to get CBT opportunities and things like that. And obviously that's more challenging than under normal circumstances. And it only really underlines the financial insecurity that we find that lots of international students are facing as well. So many graduate students who would have also really been relying on assistantships or graduate student instructor positions on campus, a lot of that stuff has evaporated along with the pandemic. And that coupled with it's increasingly challenging to find CPT opportunities also. So we find that those things that's sort of one side of the puzzle. And then the other side is financial systems often shutting down back home, people sometimes falling out of work temporarily who were supporting these international students here in the country. So financial security, I think, coupled with some of these other problems has really been super challenging. And it's something that we can certainly reassure you to some extent that the university is working to try to address. The OIA is definitely working with deans across the university as well as with administrative leadership to try to find creative ways that we can try to support our international students through some of that financial insecurity. And unfortunately at this time, it's still a work in progress for sure. But I do want to say that the university is trying to think of ways that we can support students, at least from that perspective.
Thank you, Francisco. Thank you. We have a question that, again, I think either Francisco or Emily might be able to answer. Shulen asks, talking about financial difficulties, are international students able to apply for a work permit under severe financial hardship because of the COVID pandemic?
This is possible for sure, and it's something that we've thought about. And
Hey, Francisco, can you repeat yourself? I think you cut off.
Has come of difficulties that allowing authorization under that particular under financial hardship. One of the difficulties we find is that those applications can often take 3 months, 4 months, even 5 months to be processed by USCIS. So by the time that a student is finally finds out the status of their application, it may be very far in the future. So it's not a solution for right now, right? And along with that, it's also a sort of application that is very rarely granted by USCIS. In all of my years in working with international students, I can count probably on a hand or two how many students have ever been approved with me for financial hardship work authorization. So it's really hard to get, and it takes a long time to get. But this is a good circumstance to try it out on. And the reason I say that is because one of the things that we have to be able to prove in an application for financial hardship is that your situation has changed in an unexpected way. So obviously, I think that is really the definition of what we're all living through right now. Nobody expected this pandemic. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it's had all sorts of unexpected consequences for international students, from inability to get funds from back home and families who are supporting them, together with losing work that they really counted on campus, things like the instructor position or assistantship. So being able to really highlight those things along with documentation, so again, maybe letters from back home or even letters from your academic unit, just kind of verifying the fact that these opportunities have been lost, those sorts of things could really strengthen a financial hardship application. And obviously the OIA would be happy to help students with that insofar as we're able to sort of review and give feedback. But again, it's challenging because it may take as long as 5 months or more to get an approval or denial, and we might still get denied. And also it's really tough to get approvals for these sorts of applications. But it's a great question. It's one we've thought about. Emily, would you like to add something as well?
You had very good completed answer there. Yes, I think it's more for the timing. If you need it right away, it is not a good way because it's very time consuming waiting for a result, the petition to get back. I agree. And also the approval rate is really low for that specific category.
Sheila, and I hope that answers your question. Thank you for asking. I wanted to also talk a bit about how, with our respective offices, you can seek support during this time. And I think a lot of it has actually, even through your questions, been discussed. But from the CAPS perspective, at least, I'll just talk about. Right now, we have a variety of services that we're offering. We are still open, although we are doing everything remote via BlueJeans or Zoom. We are seeing clients individually for counseling. We also are offering a variety of electronic resources and self-help apps that you can download to your phone. As well as workshops like these, featuring different topics presented by CAPS clinicians, as well as other offices and departments throughout the university that we're working closely with in order to provide you with what you as international students need. And these workshops are being aired every day, and on Friday, they're all being uploaded to the CAPS webpage if you are not able to attend in person, so that you'll have access to them whenever you have time to watch them. This was the list of different things that we thought the International Affairs Office would be able to help students with. I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add or edit, either Francisco or Emily.
So this is certainly a good list of some of the things that we generally help students with. I would only emphasize too, not just immigration check-in, but just navigating the immigration system in general, right? Whether that has to do with having to extend your program or change your source of funding for the purpose of I-20, whether it has to do with CPT authorization, or any of the variety of different immigration, either benefits or changes you might need to make to your record. We're certainly here to help advising with all of that kind of stuff, because we know it can be quite daunting and difficult to understand just by looking at the websites. So primarily, we do a lot of advising via email these days, just because of the fact that we're providing all student services remotely. But our advisors are certainly available to schedule one-on-one appointments via Zoom or BlueJeans, and we have been doing quite a bit of that as well. And the rest of the things on this list, of course, I mean, health insurance is huge right now, and help with housing, we're here to help with that too, whether it has to do with the union, or as we know, many international students live off campus at other of the local housing providers in the area. We can't always communicate with them directly if it's a third party, but we can certainly provide support if you have questions about extending leases or looking for alternate housing accommodations or whatever the case might be.
Thank you. I'm looking at some of the questions that we've been asked. Emily, you're very popular. Everyone that is logging in. Yes, everyone that's logging in is saying, hi, Emily. One of the students asks, how can we give you a call after this meeting, and is there a specific contact number? So I don't know if that can be sent out to a separate in a separate email. There's also a question about a health insurance waiver that a student hasn't heard anything from the International Affairs Office yet. I wish we could help at CAPS, but we can't. So
Yes, my apologize.
no, you're fine.
We are behind on answering all the emails because I do have a good suggestion. When you, if you do need to call me, you can do Hangouts. I think that has been working well with other students. So let's try that first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, Jimmy,
Right.
I'm gonna turn it over to you with your stress-o-meter.
Yeah, so today I know that we're all currently experiencing a lot of stress, and for us to assess our stress, it's important to identify which domain area that we're really struggling with. So you won't be able to see right now, but just visualize multiple domains, and we're able to highlight which one's high risk and which one's low risk. So when you're identifying your stress, you got to ask yourself, what is the problem? Why is there a problem? And what are some solutions / options we can utilize to kind of address the stress? And for on the stress meter, we kind of prioritize what's the most stressful and what's the lowest stressful. And then we together, brainstorm or by yourself, brainstorm proactive and reactive strategies to address the stress. So just talking about it right now with regards to the pandemic, I would assume housing is potentially a struggle, relationships a struggle, but then marking it from your honest truth, how are you doing currently? Are you unable to strengthen your relationship with people because of the social isolation? Are you unable to financially fulfill your obligation because the lack of jobs available right now? So just answer to yourself truthfully while looking at this chart moving forward. And then from there on out, you're able to revise it every month, checking back with yourself. How's my stress looking like? What can I do differently? What can I do about it that will be effective moving forward? Can you show the next slide for me, Charlie?
Yes.
So this is the stressful meter. This is the visual appearance of it. So each category identifies the home and place to live, family, relationship / attachment, social / fun, emotional, work, spiritual, I have a question, safety, legal, health, medical, finance, and school. All can be related to can be highly increased because of the pandemic. So I want you to take a few minutes, if you want to grab a pen and paper, or if you're on a computer, you want to highlight some of the stressors you're currently dealing with. Is it something that you're dealing with physical stress? Is it emotional stress? Is it a behavioral stress? And kind of go through what are some high stressors you have currently. And if you have any high stressor currently, maybe we can brainstorm together how we can define a quick solution for it. However, it won't be a quick fix, but like a solution so that you work on a weekly or a monthly basis.
And I think that will be helpful when a student asks a question, like, can you please give a working example of how the stress meter works? So I think that being able to kind of go through it will be really helpful, and kind of taking the time to sort of look at these different life domains and thinking about where your stress might be low right now, and recognizing that there are a lot of different ways that stress appears. For example, if we're stressed physically, we might find that we're getting headaches frequently. We might have an upset stomach, feeling very tense. Emotional symptoms of stress would be being quicker to anger, having a lower frustration tolerance than usual, feelings of sadness, anxiety, and then behavioral forms of stress, feeling like you're rushing to get things done, feeling like everything is moving. You have to move very quickly, when a lot of times it's okay to take, and necessary to take that step back and assess the situation, sort of look at what areas of my life am I navigating really well, even during COVID, where so many things are uncertain. Where am I able to manage my stress well? And what am I doing to help me in that endeavor? Am I able to reach out to my supports? Am I making sure that I'm eating consistently during the day? Am I getting good sleep? This we can often see as another behavioral form of stress. Our sleep habits and just the quality of our sleep decrease significantly. So, practicing good sleep hygiene is another aspect of stress reduction that can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Again, something that if you ever want to, and we do have those resources as well at CAPS, but if you ever do seek out counseling, definitely something that you can work on with your counselor at CAPS, and reaching out to us if you ever need any information. That's why we're here.
Yeah, so I think Magda asked a question, can you give us an entire working example of a stressor meter? So let's say I pick one category or two categories. So let's say I pick relationship and attachment. So let's say I mark down really high for my stressor meter. So then you develop a solution, let's say within yourself or with another individual. So if it's a relationship, let's say you share housing with a roommate or your partner. And if your stress is high because due to being isolated with each other, create a solution for each other, developing healthy boundaries, having a healthier conversation, recognizing when tensity is high, or if anxiety or anger is high or frustration is high, that you you increase the hour of having more healthier conversation and decrease the number of interaction having with each other with fights or arguments. So your goal is to not jump from high to low, right, instantly within a week. Your job is to reduce the stress. So let's say if it's high right now due to the amount of stressful interactions that you have, we try to develop a solution focused approach. So like, what can I do to reduce my stress right now? If that's having a healthier boundary, that's having more kind approach to it, being more generous towards each other, things like that you can create a solution for yourself that'll be helpful for yourself. And like you said, this is very individual based. So everyone has their own solution how to address this different category. I hope that was helpful in regards to your question.
And I do find at this time, a lot of international students, they are stressed out because of their status, immigration status.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, being unable to reach out to OIA staff to get the right answer. And that could possibly create your internal stressful situation. So it's always good that, of course, reaching out, no matter reaching out to CAPS counselors, or send out handouts if you want us to call you back, give us a phone number. And definitely, I find already a few cases that back and forth, it just building up that anxiety. So what we could do is just make an appointment and we talk for 20 minutes, and you have fully understanding about your own situation, and that could help a lot to ease your stress.
Thank you, Emily. I think that's a really good answer. And knowing that you have both of these offices with fantastic staff to be able to reach out. And we have a really good question again by Shulen. A good friend of hers passed away because of COVID, and a few of her friends did not. Two friends did not reply. I feel like the pandemic made them so vulnerable that they might shut down, and it does contribute to stress. Any suggestions about how to deal with it? And I think that's a really good question. And we will also be we'll be talking about different ways to address high levels of stress and being able to better manage stress and manage anxiety that comes from what is happening right now. I like to talk about the mind-body impact of stress, and maybe, kind of thinking about how that leads into ways that we can tend to ourselves, not just with, the psychological aspect, but also addressing, addressing the ways that we are acting in terms of our own behaviors and trying to manage stress in both healthy and unhealthy ways. So what we often see when students come in and are reporting high levels of stress, we're noticing the physical and the psychological. So we might see either a lack of appetite or excessive appetite, loss of sleep or sleeping a lot during the day. Low energy is often really common. Noticing a lot of physical pain, headaches, feeling disoriented and burnt out. There might also be so much information, and especially right now, and everything is changing and you're having to juggle so many things. And we've addressed that even today. There's so much extra, so many extra hoops that international students do have to go through to make this, to make their process go smoothly. And I think it really shows a lot of resilience for all of your ends, that you're able to continue, navigating through such a challenging time. We often see difficulties concentrating. Again, isolation, loneliness, which is going to spike during a time like this. Potentially feeling hopeless, anger, hostility. So kind of going back to what I said about like a low frustration tolerance, maybe being quicker to lash out at someone or snap when that isn't consistent with how you usually interact with people. And often this brings up a sense of failure, and feelings of guilt and shame are often really common, either feeling like you should have been able to handle this situation better, feeling ashamed that you aren't able to handle it by yourself, and that sometimes reaching out feels, again, like there's a sense of weakness, and that can be difficult. But what we see is that stress impacts us in a variety of ways, and it's not just one area of our functioning. Jimmy, do you want to talk about some of the different stressors that we might experience?
Yeah, and I think going back to that original question, how do your friends hasn't reached back out to you? That could be something they're currently dealing with, having that anxiety, having that continuing conversation with each other, because it is a stressful conversation to have. I know personally for myself, I kind of shut down sometime because I'm just kind of burnt out talking about it. But I would encourage you to continue providing support to your friend, letting them know that you're there for them. And when they're ready to talk, that you're there for them. We all deal with it differently. So it's important to note that. But the internal stress, personal anxiety, personality traits, the anxiety and fear, the physical traits with it, it's, biting your nail, having difficulty to sleep. So things re-highlighting with what Charlie just noted. External stressors. So looking back to the stressor meter, highlight some things that is external for you. Is it the family stressor? Is it your role expectation to follow through and be successor of your family while going to school here? Is it the social stressor of, dealing with having to maintain your social status while you're stuck in your house? Is it a work stressor? Finding a job right now is hard. I get that. And there's and we all have a deadline to fulfill. So change stressor, things that we're currently trying to adjust right now. Adjustment is difficult for many people at this time, which can increase our anxiety and depression. The chemical stressor, there's been an increased rate of students, and that's not only students, but the body, the population has consumed increased number of consumption of alcohol, nicotine, caffeine. And then also disease stressor, dealing with a strict diet, eating different food nowadays, repeating the same food every day. And also environmental stressor, dealing with being in this home every day. So there's multiple factors that can contribute to us being stressed. And these are the external and internal. Anything else to add, Charlie, or that's it? Okay.
No, I think that's good. I think really in this slide, it's sort of reiterating things that we've talked about, but these are
sure.
again some of the presenting concerns that international students will often bring in with them when they come to CAPS. And again, not necessarily an exhaustive list. If anyone would like to share or add other ideas in the chat box, that could also be really helpful. But these are really like the main things that we typically see with the international student population. Let's see. And these this is now where we're getting to thinking about protective factors and ways to better cope with stress and to help build connection during this time. Jimmy, do you want to do part of the slide, and then I'll kind of
So focusing on the social support aspect, right, is to ask for help. I know that asking for help is a little challenging right now because we're limited to what we can do. So try approaching it in a social media approach, not asking you to share with the whole world, but you can ask people in a direct message, text your friends, or have like a Zoom meeting or a FaceTime message to your friends, and so that you can have that more intimate conversation. Coping skills, coping can be in any way or form. It could be going for a walk. It could be, strengthening your hobbies, or just simply reading or practicing healthy coping skills such as mindfulness, or working on focusing on the moment and being non-judgmental towards yourself and not being frustrated with yourself and just simply being with yourself. Or you can take on the next part, Charlie. Physical health.
Yeah. So thinking about the different domains of health are again really important. Thinking about how do we keep ourselves physically healthy? Are we taking medications that have been prescribed to us? Are we being consistent? Especially right now, building a routine is often really important, and that can help with crafting out time to exercise during the day, making sure that you're setting times to be able to nourish yourself and keep your energy levels up. Really important, as well as thinking about that sense of purpose. It's otherwise known as self-efficacy, right? Moving towards a goal, and even taking this moment right now to think about, even during this time, something that you've accomplished, something that even with so many different stressors that you are facing, what has given you that sense of purpose? Even just one thing that you've worked towards and you feel good about. And linking that to self-esteem. When we're working towards a goal and we've been able to accomplish something and master something, naturally that helps us to feel better about ourselves. And connecting to what matters most to us and where our strengths lie are some of the best ways that we can not only build resiliency, but also that sense of compassion, that we are able to, do things for ourselves and for others that really, really benefit people. And last, thinking about our thinking, right? So when we're approaching our thoughts in a healthy way, oftentimes that means taking a step back, right? Not ruminating. So ruminating is when we have one thought in our head and we think about it over and over and over. And as a result, our anxiety level increases. Right? So we might want to take some different approaches. We might try reframing. So we might try challenging the thought that we're having, kind of thinking of like evidence for, evidence against a thought, right? To kind of look at it in a more rational way, as opposed to becoming overly connected to and emotional about our thoughts and how we're thinking. And Jimmy talked about mindfulness, which is a common approach to coping that we talk about at CAPS, and that is definitely something that has made its way into popular culture. It's everywhere. But mindfulness helps us in a lot of different ways. Connecting to the present moment, seeing things as they are, building a sense of acceptance, and taking a step back from ourselves. Especially with everything going on right now, it's very easy to become overly focused on ourself and losing connection with the present moment. And as a result, when we're able to take that step back and lessen our sense of preoccupation with ourselves, there's a sense of freedom, and we're able to act in a more effective and skillful manner. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, first thing you want to do is notice the intensity of the experience. So think of this as like a 1 to 10 scale. So 1, this is not an extremely overwhelming situation. It's something that I can manage and handle. And if we're thinking on the other end of the scale, if this experience is a 10 and it's extremely intense and we're not able to navigate through it, this is when we're going to want to turn to a mindful stance, right? Being able to build on our abilities to become connected to the present moment, being aware in a way that's non-judgmental. And that's something that is probably the hardest part of practicing mindfulness for a lot of people, is the non-judgmental aspect, because we're all very quick to criticize ourselves. We're our own worst critics. And so that ability to practice self-compassion, especially in this time, and recognizing that, you can't always accomplish every single thing that you set out to do. And especially in this time, it's important to pace yourself and recognize what your limitations are and where you can do the things that you want to do, where you're able to continue pushing yourself. But setting healthy limits is also really important. Okay, Jimmy, do you want to talk a little bit about this list of different coping skills?
Yeah, so I know that the cultural difference can be different from many individuals here. But however, talking about our feelings can be very helpful at this time. If talking about it is challenging for you, maybe write it down so that you can increase your overall wellness. Or be active, like we mentioned before, going for a walk, eating healthier food, changing your diet for yourself. Keeping in touch with loved ones. It's easy to go on a binging approach with Netflix and get stuck there and not talk to anyone for days because we're all isolated. However, if you're noticing your mental state is going down because of it, try to change that approach by reaching out to someone, having a more ongoing conversation with someone that you care about, or to reach out to someone that you want to get to know more. Or if that's not, then moving forward, maybe get professional help if you're unable to get out of that slump. Set realistic goal. Be mindful of the stressors and stress level that you're currently going through. If you're recognizing that you're unable to do it on your own, maybe getting professional help through CABS, because we do offer individual therapy at this time, will be a more appropriate step for you to take. And ask for help.
All right. Do we have any last questions before we conclude today's workshop? You can write in the chat box or either Q&A.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Thank you, Mugda. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being present with us and taking time out of all of your busy schedules to be with us. And hopefully we were able to give you some good information that can help you moving forward. Again, if you need anything at all from CAPS, we are open. Our email address is umdearborncaps@umich.edu. And if you'd like to make an appointment or just to reach out for additional resources, again, that's umdearborncaps@umich.edu. And Emily or Francisco, if you'd like to close with something from OIA, you're more than welcome.
I just wanted to say thank you, and it's a really nice presentation. It's really helpful. And thanks for the students to spend time with us. We live in the moment. It's really, really challenging. And then, however, this could be a moment that you could talk over and over again in the future. So live in the moment, appreciate that, and be connected.
I would only add my thanks as well. Thank you, Charlie and Jimmy, so much for putting this together. I think it was very, very valuable for everyone who attended. So thank you.
Thank you. And we have someone that asked, eating healthy is also important for mental health, right? Yes, absolutely.
100%.
Good question. Okay.
I have some good recipes if anybody wants to.
Ooh,
I
nice.
developed how to make popcorn.
Ooh, nice. I like that. Yes, cooking is another really great hobby to, to be able to get into right now, especially because a lot of restaurants are closed or their hours are limited. So this is a good time to learn new recipes, to be able to try things out in the kitchen. I'm not much of a cook myself, but I've been trying. So there's something to be said for trying. But yes, I really, really appreciate everyone tuning in, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.
Everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.